welcome to our channel Top List Show. Today we're counting down the top 10 countries where Americans, bless their cotton socks, are about as welcome as a skunk at a picnic. Look, we all love a good vacation, but in certain corners of the globe, that kind of behavior might just earn you a one-way ticket to a very uncomfortable situation. So, buckle up as we delve into the complex reasons why some countries might not be rolling out the red carpet for American visitors. And remember, knowledge is power. Or, at the very least, it might just save you from an awkward encounter with a border guard who's really not in the mood for your "Where's the Beef" t-shirt. Kicking off our list at number 10 is North Korea, a country that's about as easy to get into as a Kardashian trying to sneak onto a budget airline. Ruled by a regime that seems to have missed the memo on the whole globalization thing, North Korea views Americans with the kind of suspicion usually reserved for expired mayonnaise. Throw in some nuclear posturing and a healthy dose of propaganda, and you've got yourself a recipe for diplomatic indigestion. Technically, it's not impossible for Americans to visit North Korea, but getting a visa requires jumping through more hoops than a circus poodle. So, unless you're a journalist with a death wish or Dennis Rodman, you might want to stick to less geopolitically fraught vacation destinations. Coming in at number 9 is Iran, a country where the relationship with the US is about as frosty as a penguin's backside in a blizzard. Decades of mistrust, sanctions, and political baggage. For Americans, getting into Iran is like hailing a cab in a hurricane. The visa process is notoriously difficult, and you'll be subject to strict scrutiny. And let's not forget the Death to America chants. These chants oppose US foreign policy, not the most relaxing atmosphere for cocktails by the pool. At number 8, we have Syria, a country that's been through the ringer and back. We're talking a brutal civil war, a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions, and enough geopolitical intrigue to make your head spin faster than a Beyblade on a sugar rush. Needless to say, Syria is not exactly a tourist hotspot these days. The US State Department has issued its highest level of travel advisory, basically begging Americans to avoid the country like it's a public restroom after a chili cook-off. We're talking active war zones, kidnappings, bombings, and the very real risk of getting caught in the crossfire. Because trust us, no amount of Instagram likes is worth risking your life for. Sliding into number 7 is Yemen, a country that's sadly become synonymous with conflict and instability. We're talking a complex civil war, a devastating humanitarian crisis, and more factions than a high school cafeteria. The US government has been very clear about its stance on travel to Yemen. Just don't even think about it. The risks are simply too high, even for the most seasoned travelers. We're talking kidnappings, bombings, drone strikes, and the very real possibility of getting caught in the middle of a firefight. And did we mention the landmines? Because Yemen has landmines, lots of them. So, unless you've got a burning desire to star in your own personal action movie, spoiler alert, you die at the end, it's best to admire Yemen's beauty from afar. Coming in at number 6 is Libya, a country that's been struggling to find its footing since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi. With rival governments, militias running amok, and a whole lot of weapons floating around, Libya is not exactly the ideal destination for a relaxing getaway. For Americans, traveling to Libya is like playing a real-life game of Oregon Trail, except instead of dysentery, you have to worry about being kidnapped or blown up. The US State Department has issued a resounding do not travel advisory, and they're not kidding around. Even if you've got a black belt in Krav Maga and a team of Navy SEALs on speed dial, Libya is one place where you're better off staying far, far away. At the midway point of our list, number 5, we have Somalia, a country that's been ravaged by decades of conflict, famine, and of course pirates. Yes, you read that right, pirates, the kind with eye patches, peg legs, and a penchant for hijacking ships. But Somali pirates are the least of your worries if you're an American considering a trip to this troubled nation. The US government has long advised against all travel to Somalia, and for good reason. We're talking terrorist attacks, kidnappings, suicide bombings, and the very real possibility of becoming collateral damage in a firefight. So, unless you're a seasoned war correspondent with a death wish, it's best to admire Somalia's beauty from the safety of your couch. Coming in at number 4 is Venezuela, a country in a downward spiral for years. Once prosperous with stunning natural beauty, it's now crippled by economic mismanagement and political turmoil. Millions have fled across its borders. While not an active war zone, Americans should tread carefully. The US and Venezuela have a tense relationship, and tourists are easy targets for crime. Add rampant inflation, chronic shortages, and a failing healthcare system, and you've got a stressful vacation. Admire Venezuela's beauty from afar. At number 3 we have Afghanistan, a country that's been at the heart of geopolitical turmoil for decades. After 20 years of war, the US withdrawal in 2021 plunged Afghanistan into chaos, with the Taliban swiftly taking control. For Americans, Afghanistan is now a no-go zone. The US government has issued its strongest travel advisory, urging citizens to avoid all travel to the country. We're talking a volatile security situation, the constant threat of terrorist attacks, and a humanitarian crisis that's only getting worse. Plus, let's not forget the Taliban's less-than-stellar track record on human rights, especially towards women and girls. So, unless you've got a burning desire to experience life under Taliban rule, spoiler alert, it's not pretty. It's best to admire Afghanistan's rugged beauty from a safe distance. Coming in at number 2, Iraq has been synonymous with conflict for far too long. From the Iran-Iraq War to the rise of ISIS, Iraq has endured much violence. While the situation has improved, Iraq remains dangerous, especially for Americans. The US State Department advises against all but essential travel to Iraq. Sectarian tensions continue to simmer beneath the surface. One wrong turn could land you in a precarious situation. It's best to stick to safer destinations. And finally, the number 1 country where Americans are not welcome is Sudan. This East African nation has been plagued by political instability, human rights abuses, and a devastating humanitarian crisis for years. In recent times, Sudan has experienced a military coup, widespread protests, and a brutal crackdown on dissent. The US government has issued its highest level of travel warning, urging citizens to avoid all travel to Sudan. Sudan also suffers from high rates of crime, including armed robbery, carjacking, and kidnapping. So, unless you've got a burning desire to experience life in a country on the brink, it's best to admire Sudan's ancient pyramids and stunning landscapes from the safety of your living room. And there you have it, folks, the top 10 countries where Americans might want to think twice before whipping out their fanny packs and demanding directions to the nearest McDonald's. Remember, this list isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. The world is a complicated place, and understanding the complexities of geopolitics and cultural sensitivities is crucial, especially when it comes to traveling safely. Thanks for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments if there are any other countries you think should be on this list.